Welcome back. The 1952 revolution is the most important in Egyptian revolutions throughout the ages. It was a white, bloodless revolution that succeeded in changing the face of the history, not only of Egypt, but of the Arab world, of the region, and of the African continent. It transferred Egypt from the era of monarchy to the era of republics. The revolution was supported by the Egyptian people with all their enthusiasm and interaction with the army movement leaders at the time. The people showed their total support for the army. This support was a mandate for the leaders of the July 23rd Revolution movement to continue, and the July Revolution derived its legitimacy from the people and their support for it, expressing its reality and hopes for achieving independence and dignity. The 67th anniversary of the July 23rd Revolution, this is what we are celebrating on Nile Cruise here today, and it brings us memories of the political, economic, and social and other gains in Egypt, the Arab world, and the region. And on that occasion, we have the great pleasure of having with us Mr. Sameh Abdullah, who is the managing editor of the Al-Ahram newspaper. Mr. Abdullah, a great pleasure having you, sir. Hello.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is totally mine.
Thank you, sir.
Professor Sameh Abdullah, a very good day, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. Congratulations on this very special day, of course. Sir, what's your reading of the revolution of the July 23rd? How do you read this day, a very special day in the history of Egypt, a turning point in the history of Egypt, of course, and today we celebrate the 67th, of course, anniversary of this very special day.
Thank you very much. Before answering your question, let me say that I'm totally moved because we have this episode from where President Nasser used to live before. And just before having this conversation, I had a quick tour and I saw his office and I saw his bedroom and I saw his pajamas. And I couldn't believe that these were the pajamas of the President of Egypt. Very simple. And the room very simple, and I was really touched. Yes, I love Gamal Abdel Nasser like every other Egyptian or Arab. We consider him a great leader, but when you see this with your own eyes, it's something totally different. So back to the 1952 revolution. I think it's safe to say that there is a line. We can always say before and after, before the revolution and after the revolution. And talking this way, I don't mean Egypt only, because Egypt before was different, totally different from after. But even the Arab world that, you know, again, was completely different after. And Africa, and even the world, because a superpower like the United Kingdom or France, lost officially their title as a great power after the 56 invasion of Egypt or the
triple aggression.
Exactly, the aggression on Egypt. So what I'm trying to say is there is always before and there is always after, and before is totally different from what used to be after that. This is when we speak about what has happened exactly on the 23rd of July, people might have different opinions. Was it this way or that way? Was it that thing or that thing? But nobody questioned what has happened after, because it was a revolution in the sense of changing. Things were changing dramatically everywhere, and most of it was for the best.
Yes. Mr. Abdullah, I want to start from where you ended and talk about this day itself, that specific day, the night of July the 23rd, 1952, and the day itself. The most important scenes in your view, from your view as a, of course, you were very young at the time. We were not born, Rana or I, but...
I was not born either.
Okay. But... yes, as from the view of a historian, or from the view of a man who has read a lot about history, the most important scene or scenes in your view of the night of the 23rd and July the 23rd?
Yeah, exactly what has happened at that
Yeah,
night, you mean?
yeah.
Okay, look, I have a bit some kind of Sufi thinking sometimes, and I believe based on that, and based on what I was reading, there was some kind of special touches given to this movement because they have agreed on a certain time. And at that time, the top leaders of the army were gathered to move against them in the Ministry of Defense.
Yeah.
Still there in Kubri al-Ubba. And so they were able to catch them all in one movement. They didn't
Yeah.
have to do a lot.
Yeah.
Secondly, there was this segment of the Egyptian army that went a bit earlier than agreed, and that you know half an hour or 1 hour earlier was really needed for this movement to succeed because they were able to do things that if they have waited for 1 more hour, it could have been difficult. So yes, I mean
You see a heavenly intervention there, yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so. Things had to have an end because you know we were not in a very good shape at that time. And
Corruption was the name
yes,
of the
corruption
game.
and
Social injustices.
exactly,
Yeah.
occupation, whatever. So things had to be over at that night, and it happened.
Okay, sir, I just wanted to understand from you more about the multiple gains achieved by the revolution. Nationalization, of course, of the Suez Canal, the inauguration of the High Dam, moving from a monarchy into the establishment of a republic, building an Arab nationalist movement, and of course other gains. Could you tell us more, sir, about the gains?
As I was saying earlier, things were changing dramatically. Internally here, we used to have those big politicians and big and businessmen and wealthy people that they were like 0.5% of the Egyptian population, but in the same time they were controlling 50, like 95% of the Egyptian economy. And that was not good because on that, yes, they were living in a very nice way, but on the other hand, Egyptian peasants were not getting any kind of
They were deprived of their rights. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, they couldn't. Nobody was caring about them at all. And I would like to recall this fact or this historical moment. Might look awkward right now, but at that time was not, because when Nasser decided to make like a campaign to provide peasants with shoes, because مكافحة الحفاء, to you know, so that
Combating
barefooting.
They were without footwear.
Yeah, they didn't, because Egyptians at that time, most of the Egyptians living in the countryside were walking barefoot. They didn't have shoes.
So it was a revolution for dignity, basically.
Yes, but I mean, right now we have campaign to cure 100 million people and another campaign to, I don't know, do what for women. But at that time, people didn't have their ABC rights to have shoes, to walk in
the basic needs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So that was Egypt before. So then after that, of course, Nasser started building an army, and he had to move from the west to the east, and he went to Czechoslovakia, and we had this very famous arms deal. And then we had the Suez Canal nationalization because we wanted to build we want to have the High Dam, and they didn't want to support us economically, so we had to do it. And then for the first time, even though Arab nationalism was an idea that was that has existed for decades before, but it didn't have this power as it got when Nasser was a leader, or was a yes. Everybody from the Gulf, the Arabian Gulf till the Atlantic Ocean, They started feeling for the first time that yes, we are one nation, we are one group, we belong to each other. And so this ideas, even though it has existed before, it was not as strong as this. Then Africa, Nasser became the father of Africa. This is not my words, this is a word of an African, a poor little African person that when he met an Egyptian diplomat that he didn't know he was Egyptian, and the Egyptian diplomat asked him about the photo of Nasser in his shop. He said, "Who is this person?" And he said, "You don't know this person?" He said, "No, I don't know him." Of course he knew, but he was, playing the game. And he said, "This is the father of Africa. This is Gamal Abdel Nasser."
Yeah.
So speaking of streets that has the name of Gamal Abdel Nasser in so many African cities, speaking of hospitals that has the name of Gamal Abdel Nasser in so many African capitals and cities, that's not enough to show how Nasser was popular over there. Even poor African that has only a small shop somewhere had his own picture, and he's proud to say that he's the father of Africa, and he couldn't believe that this guy doesn't know who is this person. So that was Gamal Abdel Nasser.
There is no question, Mr. Abdullah, that the late President Nasser was the leader of Arab nationalism, the leader of African freedom movements. And each point that you mentioned needs, Rana, an episode by itself. Be it the nationalization of the Suez Canal, the building of the High Dam, achievement of social justice in Egypt.
From a monarchy into a republic.
Absolutely. Being the leader of the Arab or the African world. So each of these points, Mr. Abdullah, indeed needs an episode by itself. But I want to ask you about the role of President Naguib as well, because he had a leading, President Naguib, and he had a leading role as well in the July 23rd revolution. So please talk to us about the role of that great man as well.
Definitely, late President Naguib had a role to play. In fact, but the group of officers that thought of changing Egypt were young at that time. Nasser was in his 30s, and most of them were at that age. So to be in your 30s and try to change the world, that's not possible most of the time, unless you have an umbrella, a big or a guardian, somebody that takes care of you and represents you to the people. And that was the need. And here it was the need for President Naguib or General Naguib to join and to be the
face of the
especially
of the revolution.
Especially because he had very good reputation in the army and among the people before. So he was a very well-known general, and that was very useful. Of course, that doesn't mean that Nasser and his
comrades
exactly, they had nothing to do. No, in fact, they were the main thing. But
yeah, of course,
the participation.
It's not just and President Sadat as well, and everybody in that movement. Yeah.
Everybody. But it was very useful to have such a person with such a charisma, with such a reputation, to represent them and to the people, and to be the face for this revolution at the very beginning.
Professor Sameh, the revolution also, of course, had, great impact on the economic level here in Egypt, most of which were linked to the political change that took place. And that followed the revolution from the monarchy, of course, to the republic. Could you explain more, sir?
Before the revolution, Egypt was, or agriculture, was the main. Yes, I mean, Egypt was doing nothing but cultivating lands and making crops, and we had cotton, and we used to call it, the white gold, and the white, because it was our main source of income, more or less, not only for the farmers themselves, but for Egypt as a country. And whenever the cotton prices goes high, then the Egyptian economy and the Egyptian farmers are happy, and whenever it goes down worldwide, then we are in a mess. When Nasser came, he started thinking of
Industrialization.
diversifying, yes,
Yeah.
the economy, and that's how we started talking about industries and factories. And he asked the Soviet Union to help, and we started having big factories like steel factories in Helwan, like car factories in Helwan again, like aluminum in Naga Hammadi. And there was this plan, what they called the 1,000 factory plan. So they had a plan to have 1,000 factories in different
Governorates?
sorry,
Provinces?
not
Governorates?
just provinces, but
Yeah.
different areas. I mean,
Yes.
of industries. So yes. As much as the Egyptian society was has changed by Nasser and the revolution, the Egyptian economy also has gained some profits.
Sir, because we're running out of time, we're almost out. I just want you, if somebody asks you how to describe the 23rd of July revolution, the 1952 revolution, in a simple sentence, in a few words, in a banner headline.
Turning point for Egypt and for the Arab world and Africa.
Indeed.
Professor Sameh Abdullah, of course, manager of Al Ahram, manager of editing at Al Ahram newspaper. We thank you so much, sir, for your knowledgeable, of course, information that added, of course, to this very special day, to this very special celebration. Of course, we had the pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for having you with us and joining us in today's episode of Nile Cruise, sir.
It was my pleasure, and thank you for calling me professor, even though I am not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dear viewers, please stay with us. Rana and I will be back momentarily.